Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Terry Fletcher.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fabulous episode of the Steel City Underground podcast presented by Under Armour. I am your fabulous host, Joe Kuzma, and this episode is made even more fabulous. Fabulous begins with an F, and we put the F back in the WTF with Mrs. F herself, Terry Fletcher, who returns to the show. Terry, how's it going?
It's going good. We're actually in a heat wave here in California. It's 81 today.
Oh, don't tell me that. It was 29 this morning with like a high of 45, overcast, kind of drizzly, cold rain. Most of the snow and most of the ice has melted. I say most. I still have a couple piles of the nasty stuff on the corners of the driveway and things of that nature, which, you know, this is we're practically in the NFL offseason already here. We are, as far as the Steelers are concerned. A bunch of them played in the Pro Bowl yesterday. So, but we're going to be talking about all kinds of WTF stuff. Elon Musk is making a $600 flamethrower. I saw this across my travels through the weekend on the interwebs and whatnot, and you just made me think of, somebody said that would be ideal for melting the snow and ice off the driveway. So, I mean, what could possibly go wrong with a home flamethrower, like a personal portable flamethrower? So that's how you would burn the town down. And people were ready to do that quite a bit in Pittsburgh, the way it ended. I don't think you and I have spoken since then. Some things have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't. Actually, before we get into all the Pro Bowl mashup stuff, I was actually trying to get your opinion on some things that I've been hearing on NFL radio, on Sirius XM, and just some of the things on, I'm really trying to shut out the noise because it's really all Patriots all day. So I'm trying not to go there. But after I should say leading up into the playoffs and then into the AFC and NFC championships, and then now where we're at, you know, one thing you have to wonder about is where does it leave some of those quarterbacks that aren't marquee, like Bortles? Everybody kept saying, boy, you know, his arm, if they have to rely on that. And he got him far, but I never really saw them buy into him. It was almost like a Tyrod Taylor. Well, they pulled him for Peterman half the year, and everybody's still saying how great their coach is, and that was a huge faux pas for him to do that. But then you look at Keenum, the journeyman, you know, I mean, he's not new to the league. He's been there around. But then I think of Foles, and they were saying this morning, when I say they, I mean, you know, the sports channels, they were talking about there's no quarterback controversy in Philly, no matter the outcome, no matter if they win a Super Bowl, Wentz is going to be back in the saddle. So you just sit there and go, WTF, what do they do with all these quarterbacks? But I'm like, if you've got Foles that won you a Super Bowl, what do you do there?
It's a good problem to have for those teams. I mean, the Vikings have a really crazy problem because all three quarterbacks, that being the aforementioned Case Keenum, who became the starter in week 2. He came in because Teddy Bridgewater had such a nasty knee injury that kept him out for a year plus, and then that's why the team moved and they wheeled and dealed and got Sam Bradford, who then got hurt and made way for Case Keenum, who made his first start coming to Pittsburgh for the home opener for the Steelers this just past season. So all three of those guys are free agents. And with the offensive coordinator, Pat Shurmur, from the Vikings now becoming the head coach with the Giants, I don't know. I don't know what you do. I don't know how. I mean, Eli Manning's an Iron Man. He starts every game. They had Geno Smith there. I don't know what his contract situation is as far as being the backup. And then they drafted a guy, Davis Webb, as well, to maybe be somebody that's like a developmental quarterback. So I don't know that Case Keenum, I don't know that the Giants have any interest in. I mean, they've already come out and said Eli's our guy, and we're moving ahead with Eli. I don't know that they have any interest in, let's say, looking at Keenum, so he can't necessarily follow his coordinator. He kind of he earned his keep as far as the Vikings are concerned, but the Vikings, I think, they invested in Bridgewater in much the same way, you know, they didn't give up a ton because Teddy, I think, was the last pick of the one draft a few years ago where the Vikings, I think they traded up and they got like 3 first-round picks. One was Xavier Rhodes, if I remember correctly, and was it Anthony Barr, maybe somebody like that. But anyway, I don't know. They had a lot of collateral into having Teddy, and it's like they know what Teddy has because they see him practice and they've seen him work. And he wasn't necessarily bad before he got hurt. I don't know. It leaves Case Keenum in limbo, but you got to think there's a job somewhere for Case Keenum. There's a lot of teams that are quarterback poor.
I don't see him as a starter, though. I think he's going to be again another really good backup. That's just me, though, because I think his age and nobody expected him to do what he did. And I know that I was getting even some hate on Twitter, on social media, about my love for Foles. I think Jeff Fisher was the one that really kind of ruined him when he went from the Eagles to the Rams and back and forth. And even you were like, okay, Terry, your boy Foles, and even Brian. And I was like, just give him a couple of games. He needs to get acclimated. He's been in the background, and here he is in the Super Bowl. And I know their defense is playing great, so you have to definitely shout out their defense.
That's the common link with most of these teams, because even the Vikings,
right.
Great defense. But yeah, Fisher destroyed not only Foles but also Case Keenum and Jared Goff.
I forgot about that.
So you look at all these guys; these were all under the Jeff Fisher tree, and it makes you wonder what was growing off of that thing that they were all doing so bad. But yeah. The Chiefs had Foles, and then they went and drafted Mahomes. So now you've got this controversy as to whether or not Alex Smith will be there, be traded, and we already saw the Patriots dump Jimmy Garoppolo, so you never know if they're in the market to snatch one of these guys to be a backup. A.J. McCarron's supposed to be hitting free agency, and you mentioned someone else, but I don't know. You can't go away from Wentz. I mean, Wentz had so much success, but a lot of people are talking in that same aspect of like a Steve Young, Joe Montana type deal or something like that. So I don't know. I don't know what you do. It's a good good problem for those teams to have, but
right.
If you make the decision and then you go back and 3 years from now it ends up being the wrong one, you'll never live it down. Those GMs, those coaches, everybody, they'll be without a job. I mean, it's just the way it is. These teams are very quarterback driven. These coaches, they have their jobs mostly if they have a great quarterback in their system. So, it's no different than Mike Tomlin or Mike McCarthy, who coaches the Green Bay Packers with Aaron Rodgers, or look at Belichick with Tom Brady. He's had Tom Brady for the whole tenure too. So,
right.
Very good point.
Well, and you have to. They're also saying that Kirk Cousins is on his way out of. One minute he's on his way out of Washington, the next minute he's not. So you just never know. Where anybody might end up. I think the one that's probably on the chopping block would be Bortles. I just don't see the faith in him. That's where I can see him being. It's like, oh, I think they, instead of thinking, wow, look what he did for us, they're like, wow, he got us this far. Wow, okay.
Could have got farther with somebody else. That's what they're thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But, everybody's always, and this is just my annoyance with the I don't know, it's like the flavor of the week sometimes with the media. All they kept talking about was this phenomenal Jaguars defense, and they were good. There's no question. You got that guy back there, Ramsey, but my thing is we put up 42 points on them. So, okay, yeah, great defense. But, no, we did not win the game. I get that. Give us one more minute. I think we could have pulled it out. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I know I'm always on the we train when it comes to the Steelers. But because we seem to be that fourth quarter team, which seems to be what the Patriots are doing, is they got back out of their 10-point deficit and came back on the Jags as well. I mean, they almost did the exact same thing we did, except they pulled out the win.
No kidding. No kidding. Yeah, that's a great point. You made it right there. Was why the Patriots always got to keep coming back in the fourth quarter. Everyone criticizes Mike Tomlin and the Steelers for not being, they're not prepared and they're not ready and they stall and they stink at the beginning of the game. What have the Patriots been doing? That's what happened in the Super Bowl. Yeah, all this stuff. I mean,
the Titans, remember them? They were the first to score on them.
Yeah, exactly.
In the divisional. So it's not like they're just. I think the thing is they're pulling out the win, and we've got Captain Clutch Kicker. But and that our kicker is their 40-year-old quarterback. So and they're getting more wins than we are in that fourth quarter. And that definitely is a WTF for all of us. But I think now we're heading into that really interesting, What was that yesterday anyway? I
Well,
think they,
I don't know.
the skills fun. What part was fun? Watching the skills stuff going on.
I had one more for you just based off of the previous week in the championship games was nobody could shut up about Tom Brady's hand. That was the WTF
Right.
for me. And then
Yeah.
Gronk getting the concussion. I mean, that's nothing to really joke about, but somebody did tweet out, and I'm saying this because it is going to make you laugh. How can you tell if Gronk had a concussion? I mean,
Well,
he's
yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
meathead in many ways. So he lives that
Well, and I
persona.
think that it'll be you know he's going to play, and I you never want to call out staff, but he was rocked for a big guy. He was rocked, and I'm surprised that he's getting through protocol. I mean, I know it's the Super Bowl, but I don't know. Oh, just one side note. I just wanted to comment on something, and this is a WTF for me, for you too, as a parent. We both have daughters. Did you hear what happened this morning with Tom Brady on the radio show?
In passing, I heard that he stepped out of a radio show for some comment. I didn't hear what that comment was, though, about
It was
his
against
daughter.
his daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was. They called her an irritating brat or irritating something,
Oh,
and
jeez.
basically it was the a word that was similar to that, and I was just like, wow. So yeah, it's actually a pretty big deal. I mean, you and I try to, when we podcast, obviously we go into a private room, a quiet room, and tell our families, okay, shh. And maybe Tom didn't have that option when he was on the radio. Who knows? But you say something like, "Oh, that sounds like your daughter in the background. Does she want to say hi to us?" Instead of, "Wow, you've got an irritating, annoying little child in the background." So I
you
don't
gotta
like Brady, but you can't do that.
you
Can't
can't
say
you gotta pick your battles. Is that, like, why
Yeah.
would you do that? I mean, you have a guy that's arguably one of if not the greatest quarterback of all time. As much as it pains
Yep.
me to say that, sitting across from you or doing an interview, or even if it's done via phone, if they're not there in
Yep.
the studio, and if there's noise in the background, sure, we've all been there. I mean, come on, that's so insensitive. I would have told
It
this guy
was.
where to put it too. So
Yeah.
good for Brady. I
Exactly.
totally with that. These guys are human beings. I mean, they live larger than life, and then some of them. Brady will never be a guy that like retires and then you forget about like what sort of kind of like, let's say, Cordell Stewart, or even more so like Tommy Maddox with the Steelers, or
Right.
somebody like that. Mike Tomczak that could just go and maybe go to the grocery store and not get bugged. I mean, Tom Brady is just he's
Right.
that
But you think they could have
upper
embraced the
echelon.
dad
But
Brady or
geez,
something
I
instead of
know.
the player Brady. But I don't want to sit there and praise Brady, but he definitely had a little bit of my vote there today. Just going, dude, you did the right thing. Just stop that interview. So
Yeah, that's so ridiculous, and we've spoken with many players here on our own show, and it's just like these guys are really down to earth, and are just like you or I, except their job just happens to be one where they're in front of cameras and play a game to
right.
make a living. So and they try and do it to the best of their ability for as long as they can, and many of them can't do it for very long, or they're not the best. There's a large turnover, like we were just talking about with the quarterbacks. There's going to be a bunch of guys coming in that are going to get drafted that are going to bump some of these guys off of rosters. So speaking of the best and goats and everything else, you were mentioning the Pro Bowl skills competition, of which I watched 98% of it. I say 98% because I got off my couch and I was making this comment about how it was edited last year, because this aired at 9 o'clock at night Eastern time. But obviously it's, when you're watching it, it's condensed down to fit into that hour block or whatever, because it was done throughout the day earlier in Orlando because it's daylight, obviously. And they have all these competitions. So I say 98% of it because I was looking forward to the little drone drop thing where they drop the ball. I got up to go like fill I got this neat little like vacuum seal water thing my wife got me for Christmas, and it's got R2-D2 on it because I'm a Star Wars dork, and I love it. So I go get some water. I go walk back to the couch, and wait a minute, they just showed like I got like the last 2 seconds of a highlight of someone catching the ball in the shield or whatever, or one falling, and it was over. And I'm like, what happened to that?
Right.
What happened to that? I saw all the quarterback stuff. Now the quarterback stuff, guys are looking good, man. I mean, I like watching that. I think that one's probably the most
See, I
apropos.
did miss that. I came in when they did the best hands, and I was surprised not to see AB and
Oh,
Bennett.
you're telling me that's so
I was
disappointing.
like, because it was terrible. I mean, it was terrible what they did. And, I was talking to my husband about that, and he's like, well, maybe it's because, each quarterback didn't have their own wide receiver. I'm like, that's just stupid.
No, it's, there's a little on both of that, but Alex Smith's one of the more accurate guys you got in the league. Derek Carr actually looked pretty good during most of this. Just to give a little rundown for anyone listening who may have missed, the skills competition they had on Thursday, they took, I think, 10 from each conference, 10 players. It was a mix and match of different quarterbacks, receivers, running backs, some defensive players, kickers, whatnot, and they put them through these different, challenges. Now, some of them were team-based, like you had everybody in the dodgeball one, which was the deciding one we'll get to in a second. They start out with the quarterback one. The quarterbacks have to throw and hit targets, and they break like little paper things, and they're almost like moving targets, like bullseyes. They're on a windmill or whatever the thing is. They're moving around. Then the drone drop. They have this drone that's however many feet in the air, and it drops the ball straight down, and the players on the NFL logo, and I guess they have to catch it while on the logo, and if it falls within that logo, then you don't get a mulligan on it. Then you're talking about they had this was new, I think this year, was where the quarterbacks are throwing. There's 7 stations, and the receiver has to catch one over their shoulder. There's a sideline catch where their feet have to be in this little painted box. There was one where they throw over a wall. It was pretty cool. And
the one-handed catch was really funny.
Yeah. Now Keenan Allen looked absolutely terrible in this thing. Now Antonio Brown wasn't part of this. Ben wasn't part of this. Like Alex Smith, Derek Carr, Keenan Allen, but Michael Thomas from the Saints absolutely killed it. His hands are huge. He's just this tall, lean, he really looks the part, and he killed it. And then they had this one where you have to dive on this gym mat at the very end for a diving catch, and Keenan Allen, and they said it. They were saying it. I think the analyst guys that are talking, which is just as ridiculous listening to the play-by-play of this, and they're like, hey, it fatigues you. Yeah, it fatigues you because you had to go through and then come back counterclockwise and go back through again. So there's 14 catches, and then the 15th one diving or whatever onto the mat. These guys were gassed by the end of it. Michael Thomas caught all of his, so he looked fresh and just blew through it. Keenan Allen dropped 6 of the first passes on the first station and just looked I don't know, he looked like a mess.
Well, he even said when the one I don't remember the female reporter, but she goes, "What'd you think?" He goes, "I sucked." It was really funny. He goes, "I was terrible." It was just so funny to watch him. But yeah, the skill's pretty funny. But one thing I forget about the Pro Bowl is how non-competitive it is.
Oh, wait. You cannot skip it. Now, you talk about this guy all the time, and he made the Pro Bowl, and you say he's a killer bee, and you just skip over that part of the skills competition? Oh, come on, Terry. Shame on you.
Our kicker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Boswell.
How did he do? I did not miss that. I did not see that.
It was called kick-tack-toe, and what they did was they took and put a grid over the field goal posts, and they were kicking from 40 yards out or something, and it was him and Graham Gano of the Carolina Panthers, who I need to mention one more time after this. They would kick, and they had to hit one of them and get 3 in a row, or what was it, 5 total. Oh my God, they missed so many kicks. It was so hard for them to hit right on the money. They were hitting the post.
Both of them?
Yeah, both of them.
Okay.
Believe it or not. At first, it looked like Boswell was really bad, and then Gano started missing some too. And when you're trying to hit a specific square, it looked a lot better on paper. I think next year they just need to the John Madden video games. This is funny, but they used to do a thing where it was okay, you kick from 40 yards out, from the left of the hash, from the middle, from the right, and just do that. And they should do that coming out every 10 yards and do it until either someone misses or whoever makes the most. Or it would have made a lot more sense to give them a try each time for that. But Graham Gano was the next to last guy in the dodgeball against Jarvis Landry. He tries to roll a ball at Jarvis Landry and then throws one, but he hesitated a little bit. So Landry kind of avoids the first one and then has this tiptoe sideline catch and catches the second ball to eliminate Graham Gano, of all people, a kicker.
Well, that's what the
everything.
Media people. Yeah, the media people were like, "There's a kicker at the end." I mean, you always hear the thing. Punters are people too, kickers are people. They're athletes? I thought they're just kickers. So it's kind of funny to see them at the end. I actually think it's great. I love seeing the kickers at the end.
Yeah. Okay. Pro Bowl. Yes.
Oh,
Guys kind of
man.
get wrapped up just a little bit, and that's the end of the play. And some guys didn't want to stop, and the referees are like, tweet, tweet, tweet. No, 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 no. We all kind of, we're in on this. Nobody wants to get hurt. You get paid millions of dollars. If somebody gets hurt, it's going to be my butt. So, except for Delaney Walker, he was kind of like, you're going to have to bring me down on one of those plays. And Von Miller was all but willing to oblige with that.
Well, I know that when we see, when we saw Bell run, and all of a sudden they're blowing the whistle, and their perception of his forward progress stopped versus what we know how he can get those extra yardage by bowling his way through. I'm like, what just happened? And Tom's like, they're not going to let him go any further. I was like, well, and I was surprised he went back in. I think he went back in the third quarter or something, and I was surprised. I was like, why is he back in? He was out, and it's like they don't have 100-person roster, so they didn't have a lot of guys. So
they don't even have the 53. I think it's like 40. I mean, there's
42.
Yeah, which is basically almost like having the inactives on a regular game day with the NFL thing. But yeah, they don't have enough guys to go around, so I wasn't as much surprised with that. I know having 3 quarterbacks, they were going to try and spread it around, but they were all like struggling to throw the ball. It was like pouring down rain, and just what a vacation for those guys, right?
I would have liked to seen. I'm surprised that the NFL wasn't really clear on who replaced who. Every once in a while you'd see something put out on Twitter as far as, well, this guy like Hayward, went in for the Patriots guy, and you're just trying to figure out, okay, who's replaced. So when I saw the quarterbacks room, that's when I saw it was Ben and Smith and Carr, and I was bummed not to see Phillip. I didn't know if he was hurt or just didn't go or what, because I thought that would be cool to see 2004 draft class there. But I didn't realize Carr was even on that list. I would have thought maybe, I don't know, somebody else would have been there before that. But
we ran through on the last show, me and Brian. I think there was 26 or 27 replacements, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. Almost a full
Ben
team.
Looked bored. I thought Ben looked bored, and I know that they all went because, obviously the offensive coaching staff was there. And I didn't see Butler. Maybe I overlooked him. But
they were all there, but yeah, they didn't really highlight Butler. You got to see Fichtner, and Tomlin ran out on the field on one of the scores. Like he went out there like he was one of the players coach.
I saw that.
So it was just silly.
Yeah. It was funny. But I think him trying to coach up, other quarterbacks, because everybody was like, oh, Carr played great. Carr did not start off great when he went in what was it, the fourth quarter? He was not good. And then, once you're as good as your last play, and he starts finally, when they took a timeout and Tomlin said something to him like, you look terrible out there. And so you might want to do this. And then he finally started doing what he needed to do on fourth down. He made that slant route, and then, he ended up getting it in the end zone. But to start, he was not making good throws. Now, I realize it was raining. It was definitely the weather, and I don't think they thought that was very fun. But it looked like Ben and Alex were kind of like, this is dumb. So.
Yeah, and they were smiling on a few things. I think some of it was weather. I think some of it was just like the game isn't taken very serious. And then it felt like it got more serious toward the end when it was a little close, and they kind of played a little bit more. It looked like maybe the NFC defense, the secondary, looked like they were very serious, like Xavier Rhodes and that, like almost
they
like
wanted to protect their money.
Yeah. So I mean, it was I don't know. It was okay. It wasn't completely unwatchable, but it is what it is. It's bizarre, it's awkward, and it's tough to get emotionally invested in. It was easier when you have all the Steelers players basically on one side of the ball on one team with the coach and that. Then maybe that's why I tuned in and cared more for it this year is more than years past. But when they were doing the whole thing with like, what was it, like Dion or whoever making picks, and it was just Michael
I
Irvin
didn't watch any of that.
Bettis, it was okay, but it was probably even more strange. At least with this, you kind of I don't know. It is fantasy football, but
it was different. It was. I think the thing that was kind of fun about it though is just seeing all those Steelers out there, and you see on social media. Somebody said, "What's all that yellow and gold doing out there?" Now, I didn't like the McDonald's colors on the AFC. I was like, "Who sponsored these guys?" I thought that was kind of funny. It didn't seem. I was really hoping to see a really fun splash play with AB and Ben, but
Well, they tried. They tried. They had that
yeah,
little
they did
pitch
try.
play, and AB tried to throw the ball downfield. That wasn't a terrible pass either for him being a
No,
lefty and all
he
considered.
just
But
floated it a little too much. But
yeah,
yeah, if he just did a little more of a dart, it would have been a great play. But it was a fun game to watch. It just seemed to take a lot of time because there were so many stoppages of play.
oh,
And
and
it's just like,
a
oh my
review,
God.
a replay review in the Pro Bowl to
Oh,
a commercial break. Are you kidding me? Do you
I
want people to
know.
tune out
Really?
on this? That was probably the biggest WTF of the whole thing, believe it or
I was
not.
like, well, and for those folks that are listening in and they don't know, the winners, each player gets $64,000 for winning, and that you get 32 if you lose. And so it's towards the end. I mean, when the NFC, I don't remember who the quarterback was, the NFC at that point, but when he got sacked, I was like, uh-oh, we're sacking people now because they were trying to not let anybody really get taken down.
Yeah,
But it was fun to watch as far as having all of our players in there, and as far as the Steelers. And I love the fact that Rosie Nix got to go. I think
that's
he
awesome.
was so excited. I mean, obviously Hayward should have been there. He played the whole game. Did you see that?
Yeah. He was in there the
He
whole time. He
played
was up
the
to the
whole
last play
game.
with the Von Miller thing. He was in on it. So
Well, that was actually funny because everybody kept saying, no, Cam did, Cam got the fumble, and no, Vaughn did. And it was funny because then, even though Miller got the MVP, he actually tweeted out something which I thought was awesome. He said, Cam got the strip sack or was strip tackle, whatever it was. He said, but I covered it. It was a dual effort, people. So at least he gave him out a shout out. I thought that was great because people were arguing who actually did it. And it's funny because I actually thought it was the Jaguar that did it. So I was like, I don't even think it was either one of them, but it was actually Cam that started it and he finished it.
yeah, they credited Von Miller for a forced fumble and the fumble recovery official statistics because I know somebody will roast me and say, "Oh, well, Cam got in on that," but you're saying James Harrison isn't making an impact. More on that, not today. Don't need to
Yeah.
talk about him. I'm just going to let that be where it need to be. A few quick hits here before we run out of time here. Al Riveron returning in 2018 to head the officials in replay.
Oh my gosh, Joe. Oh my gosh.
Apparently,
It's almost as bad as Matt Hasselbeck putting in for the Monday Night Football job.
yeah.
I mean, you know what? If Pro Bowl told us anything, he should not be in that booth. But Ron Riveron, how is it possible with the biased calls and just how many he overturned without clear evidence that the commissioner can't see that that's a bad idea? Oh, it's just a bad idea.
Well, as far as performance review, he's covering their butt because there was just ESPN reporting that Roger Goodell says he's pushing to change the league's controversial catch rule this offseason. Gee, you think it's about time to maybe review that, take a look at it? What they need to do is this book needs to bend. It's very hard to put things in black and white language to the letter of the law. So we'll see. I mean, they've got plenty. All they got to do is take a few those clips from Patriots games, and they got plenty to work with there. So
they do, and I think Jesse's catch. I think that put Jesse on the board as far as being somebody people talk about. He was kind of that tight end that hid behind the sidelines. He's I don't know, respectable tight end. Does his blocking. He's always playing. He doesn't get hurt. Catches the ball when he needs to, but not a big stats guy. But I think he makes some impact. But boy, his effort to make that happen, and I'm going to go to my grave saying Jesse caught it.
Oh yeah, he's forever embedded into the NFL lore, just like Des Bryant catching it, or Megatron catching it, or any of the other examples throughout the years. Another WTF here was Todd Haley, now an offensive coordinator with the Cleveland Browns.
I actually think, I think between their new GM. And I've never been really a Haley fan, only because I think him and Ben have a different idea of what closes games out. Can he help them score big? Can he help make the offense? I mean, he's made an explosive offense, but I don't see him as a closer. That's just my opinion. But I think that for Cleveland, it was definitely an upgrade. So I
It
just
doesn't take
think that
much.
it does not. I mean, I would hope that they would win a couple of games this year, but I don't understand their thought process. I don't think anybody does, because obviously you can't keep coaches that don't have a winning season, but they got rid of a coach with Pettin. I mentioned it this morning that had at least I think I saw 10 wins in 2 years, which was terrible. Maybe it might have been 6 wins. I'm not sure, but it was terrible. But he still said you can't have 3 wins. I remember when he got fired, you can't have 3 wins and expect to keep your job in one of the years. And I was just like, okay, what about 1 win in 2 years? And Hugh Jackson kept his job. And I was like, okay. And he was playing quarterback ping pong like it was,
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's weird over there.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I don't know. I've got my own theory on that we'll talk about in the near future about what the Browns' future could look like. But just, Hugh Jackson year one going through like 5 or 6 starting quarterbacks, okay, I give you a pass. They still won a game, and they won it in spite of the Chargers because the Chargers really just lost the game. But to have 2 years in a row like that,
Yeah.
I don't know. And they were doing the whole WTF is, I think it was that Sashi Brown that they had. I think he's out the door. It was the whole Moneyball idea, and the analytics did not translate well to the NFL. So,
Well, and it shows you how spoiled we are in Pittsburgh, where people want to fire Tomlin because he did not call a quarterback sneak in the divisional game. You've got a team over here that's in the NFL with really some decent players who can't seem to win a game, and people want one of the most winningest coaches out there that doesn't have a losing season. That, yes, I would agree that should have been called, but fire him, really?
You would not believe how much people would take what you just said as a hot take, and I have a lot more to talk about with that too. I got to bite my lip on a few things. If I talk about everything, the show will go for 4 hours, and we'll run out of things to talk about. Yeah, and we'll run out of things to talk about this offseason. But final for you, since I won't get to talk to you again before the Super Bowl, what are your plans for Super Bowl Sunday? What's the big thing that you're going to do, and who do you have in the game?
Well, my brother is a huge Patriots fan, and he lives in Portland, Oregon, and so I'm flying up there because I have business up there next week, and I will be there watching it with him with a Eagles shirt sitting right next to me. I will have my Steelers shirt on, but an Eagles shirt to hold up as a flag every time they do something. I actually think if the Eagles can play the way they did in the NFC Championship game, they've got a shot. I think they have a shot. I think it's going to be a closer game than everybody expects, and I'm going to take Eagles 23-17.
Oh, you got a score, too. You know what this game reminds me of? This reminds me of when Peyton Manning and the Seattle Seahawks went head-to-head, and nobody was giving Seattle a chance. And you had Russell Wilson. Oh, he's young. He's not that good of a quarterback, blah, blah, blah. This is Peyton Manning. And this is a Broncos offense that scored the most points in the league. Well, this is a Patriots offense that scored the most points in the league. And you've got an Eagles defense that's very stout. And, Matt Ryan couldn't do anything on them. The Vikings couldn't do anything on them. They have more than a shot, because I still don't truly believe that the Patriots defense is up to snuff. I think they've gotten away with some things. Marcus Mariota, Blake Bortles, like I said, they always tend to walk right into the darn Super Bowl. So for me personally, I'm going to stay home. Speaking of that Seattle and Denver game from a few years ago, it's the last time I had people over, and I have like a family member, an uncle that just won't shut up even while I'm trying to watch the commercials. and then he's trying to tell me, because Bud Light was doing the Arnold Schwarzenegger commercials or whatever, Down for Whatever or whatever the thing was back then. And he's saying, oh, you watch this? Well, yeah, I watched this. It's kind of, my thing. I think it's a lot of things for a lot of people. Well, I don't like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Well, that's great, but you're running your flapper during all of these commercial breaks. And then he's trying to argue with me and tell me that he's seen these commercials before. Now, this isn't like right now where some of these people are starting to leak and show these commercials, which I don't know why. Why would you show a Super Bowl commercial before the Super Bowl?
Yeah,
that's the whole point.
That makes no sense. Yeah, exactly.
That's a WTF.
That's the one thing you actually watch is the Super Bowl commercials.
So
Jeez.
from now on, just me, the wife, and the kid. If somebody does want to kind of hang out or whatever, they need to be approved. They have to go through a process. So because I can't take the bar noise and stuff either. I used to do the bar scene type stuff, and that's where I watched the last Super Bowl with the Steelers and the Green Bay Packers. And it's not the same for me.
No, I want to see the game. I want to see the game.
So, well, Terry, thank you for coming back. And we'll have more to talk about here in the very near future, maybe as soon as next week after the Super Bowl.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, as always. So, folks, we got a lot to talk about here in the near future. So, we're going to start giving you some questions and whatnot. But right now, one of the things up on SteelCityUnderground.com is the most improved player for 2017. We also had comeback player, but there's really only one in that category. So, if you want to shoot us your thoughts on those picks, leave them in the comments wherever you may be listening to this, or head on over. It's pinned to our Twitter account for the next 2 days, and you could leave your vote. Until next time, be safe, be good, and we will catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.